Welcome to the Assembling Inclusion podcast. On this show, we feature different programs, individuals, and initiatives focused on being more inclusive of individual needs. We invite you to learn right alongside us. If you want some additional resources or access to our courses, please visit our website or follow us on social media. But for right now, let's get right to the episode. Did you know there are over 300 different sign languages being used around the world? These variations are spoken by more than 72 million deaf or hard of hearing people. Despite the size of the population of sign language speakers, there are few solutions that exist to bring in this type of translation to daily life. Closed captioning is always an option, but this option does not work for every person. To combat this issue, Mariella Satow created SignUp, a free Chrome extension that overlays sign language interpretations over Netflix and Disney Plus media. In this episode, we talk to Mariella all about the creation of SignUp, the process of hiring interpreters, choosing movies and creating interpretations, and then the future of plans and expansion. This episode offers a lot of perspectives and information about sign language and the deaf and hard of hearing communities. When you're done listening, make sure you hop over to the Chrome Web Store to try out SignUp. But in the meantime, let's dive in to learn more. All right, welcome back to the Assembly Inclusion podcast. Today we are talking to Mariella Satow, who created the free Chrome extension SignUp. So Mariella, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So just to kick us off, I figured, can you introduce what SignUp is and explain what it does for our listeners?
Of course. So we are a Google Chrome extension that overlays sign language interpretation on streaming platforms. So right now we're on Netflix and Disney Plus.
That's awesome. And what was the inspiration for creating SignUp? Was there something that you noticed that you thought maybe this is a need, or something from your own experience that inspired you to create this?
So I started learning American Sign Language about 2 years ago. And with that, I started talking to members of the deaf community and learning more about deaf culture in general. And I was really surprised to find out that closed captions don't work for a huge number of people, just because they've been the gold standard of accessibility for such a long time, especially in my lifetime. So I went about researching, interviewing members of the deaf community, seeing what the solution could be, and the overwhelming response was sign language, especially for young kids who haven't learned how to read yet, but they can sign, or for kids who just can't read fast enough. And then we also have deaf adults who can read but prefer their native language, sign language. And then actually a lot of our users are hearing people learning ASL or BSL, which is kind of cool as well.
Yeah, that's really awesome. That kind of spans across a variety of different communities. I assumed that the deaf community would heavily rely on this, but it's also people learning.
We started with just 3 movies on Disney Plus in the US with American Sign Language. And overnight, we had 20,000 people to our website and an article in Variety, which I wasn't expecting at all. A small passion project that I was doing in high school. But after that, it made me want to grow the company. And we now have like 200 titles interpreted. We launched in the UK. We're about to launch in Australia and India and Pakistan.
Well, that's really impressive how quickly it grew. It grew almost overnight then, just starting from, a couple thousand people. And it's really impressive how many titles you have on there as well. So how do you get your interpreters? Because they're actual people, obviously, who are signing on top of the movie that is going on. How do you acquire people to interpret movies for SignUp?
So a common misconception about SignUp is that the interpreters are live or automated. All of our content is, as you said, real people, and it's pre-recorded, and it's kept in sync just through timestamps. So our interpreters, so far in the US, we've been lucky. Interpreters have reached out to us and applied through a form on our website. We've had over 300 applications, which has been amazing. We always prioritize deaf talent on screen. So we have quite a few deaf interpreters, and then hearing interpreters help out behind the scenes, making reference videos for the deaf interpreters. So I'd say about a third of our interpreters are deaf, and good places that we haven't used it because we haven't had to. Registry of Interpreters for the Deaf, I know, is amazing, and National Association of the Deaf. So if we ever need more, we'll go to them.
It sounds like you have a lot already so far, and they're just volunteering to do it, right? They just volunteer and sign up.
No, we have always paid our interpreters.
Oh, that's even nicer.
Yeah, so it
Compensation.
really is a long process and it's a very specialized position. So it's really been important to me to always pay interpreters. That's why it was kind of so slow at the beginning, because it was my own dog walking money. So I could only pay for 3 movies. But then since then we've got, GoFundMe donations and now investors. So that's how we're able to afford so many more movies, which is great.
I'm assuming it is a very time consuming process to sign an entire movie. I'm sure that's long.
Yes, it is. I'd say it takes an average of 5 hours per kind of standard hour-and-a-half movie.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty long time then. And you said they're timestamp matching, so that's how you keep in time. Can they just record from home, or is there like a specific process they have to follow? Because I was looking at some of the pictures of SignUp, and it looks like they always have a flat background, so it's not anything distracting in the background. I'm assuming so you could see and focus more on the sign language itself. But is there any like specific protocol you have for the signers?
That's a really good question. Yeah, everyone is remote. It would be great to have kind of meetups in different cities for a live studio day. I would love to do that. But for now, everyone's remote. Most people, because of COVID, have pretty good filming equipment, but we have provided interpreters with whatever they need. So we ask for a black background or dark, plain clothing, hair back, just no distractions from their hands. Lighting is really important. So we've tried to standardize it as much as possible. And we can send people whatever they need. We send backgrounds all the time, ring lights, different cameras. Yeah.
That's really great that it's standardized, but there's still flexibility. You're right. Everybody probably does have, at this point, decent enough equipment because the pandemic really forced everybody to have to get decent equipment and decent space to work too. I'm assuming a lot of people probably have those things already, which is great and helps out with making that process a little bit easier.
Exactly.
So currently you said you work with ASL and BSL. Do you have any plans to expand to any other variations of sign language? I know there's different regions of the world have their own variation of sign language. So is there any plans to expand at any point in time?
Yes, so there are over 300 different types of sign languages, and I would love to be available in all of them. But for now, we are focusing on the US, the UK, and then this year we're launching Indo-Pakistani sign language. So that's in India and Pakistan, and then Auslan for Australia.
Oh, perfect. Is there a specific, rationale for choosing different regions, or is it just that you have the interpreters available who are fluent in that regional dialect of sign language, or is there a specific process for that?
The US and the UK I chose just because I have networks in both those countries, so it just was easy. Australia has just been because of how much interest we've had from the Australian deaf community, which is great. And then India and Pakistan, I really wanted to launch there because most of their media doesn't even have closed captions. So deaf people have zero access to content over there, whereas in the US almost everything is captioned. But in India and Pakistan, the deaf community is just missing out on all media and entertainment. So I really wanted to launch sign language, and they have the largest deaf community in the world, which is crazy that none of them have access. So I'm really excited to launch there.
That is exciting. I didn't know that. I had heard that they had a large deaf community population there, but I didn't know that very little or nothing is closed captioned. That's surprising. Wow. Yeah. That really is a strong need then to have that available to them.
Definitely. Wow. Yeah.
You have over 200 titles so far, you had mentioned, across Netflix and Disney Plus. What's the process for getting either a new movie or a new show available? How do you decide what movies to put on? And then how long does that process take to actually get it up and available?
So at the beginning, we didn't have any users, so I got to decide what the first three movies were. So it was The Incredibles, which is my all-time favorite Disney movie, Zootopia, and Moana. And they did do really well. After we launched the first three movies, we started opening it up to the deaf community and we started polling them on social media, sending emails out to our users saying, what do you want to see? And when we started getting used in schools, teachers would actually reach out to us and say, can you do A Wrinkle in Time? We're studying this book in English class and we would love to show the movie. So that was very cool that we were being incorporated in the curriculum. We've done Inside Out for health class. We've done Old Yeller for English as well. We're looking at some more STEM videos right now as well. We haven't done many of those. Documentaries, National Geographic on Disney Plus. So that's how we choose them now. It's all polling through social media, which is kind of fun. I'm in charge of that right now. So I love seeing what people want because it's very surprising sometimes.
That's a good process. I like that you're involving the community in that process as well. It's not just, one person saying, here's what I'm going to make. They get to have their feedback heard, which is nice. I always appreciate that. And I love the school aspect of it. I was a special education teacher and I was thinking about that as you were talking at the beginning about how the closed captions are either too fast or people are struggling to read them. I worked primarily with people who had reading disabilities, but then they might have another on top of it. They might also be, hard of hearing. So the closed captions would have been fully inaccessible then for anybody who wanted to watch the movie version of something that we read. So that's nice that you're also taking that into consideration. I'm sure teachers love that. I could totally see this being like right up a lot of teachers' alley and perfect for them. Even if we're getting toward the end of the year here. So teachers are showing movies, and then it's nice that they could show a movie, have that option for the overlay, and really be inclusive of everybody in their room.
Exactly. And it gives teachers a break. I mean, the amount of teachers that reached out to us and say, I just interpreted a full 2-hour movie. I'm so glad you exist now.
Yeah, that's challenging on top of it, having to do both because you're managing the class and interpret. That's a lot of work.
It is, yeah.
You mentioned at the beginning that the extension is also good for people who are learning sign language. So people who are learning ASL or BSL. What has been the feedback from those users, if you have any feedback from them? How have they felt that the extension has helped them in their learning of sign language?
So for more beginners like me, I use SignUp all the time. Whenever I want to watch a movie, I'll put SignUp on. And it's just seeing, I think, a more natural way of signing. Because I think in classes, you can be kind of stiff just because you're learning the language structure. But in movies and TV shows, everything's so colloquial. You kind of get to know real life questions and answers, which has been really helpful for me. Receptive skills, that's a big problem for beginners, and I'm really bad at that. So noticing certain words and matching it up with the audio and with the captions is super helpful. And then for higher level interpreter training programs who use us, they will have homework that is watch 30 hours of an interpreter, of different interpreters. So now they can watch SignUp, which is really helpful. And because we have a mixture of different regions in the US, it's great for seeing a wide range of signing styles and getting used to that. So we are used by beginners and advanced, which I like.
Yeah, that's really great that it really spans across people's skill sets when it comes to learning the language. I mean, they always say when you're learning to speak a new language, you should immerse yourself in the language as opposed to, yes, I mean, a class is important, obviously, for the educational purpose, but to really understand how people speak fluently. So I can see how that would be really helpful to somebody who's just starting to learn the language. Mm-hmm. So how many users are currently using SignUp, approximately?
We have 16,000 people who use it every week. That's the only metric we have right now,
That's a lot.
unfortunately.
That's a
Yeah, and
lot.
it does fluctuate. Like at Christmas, we had 20, and then back to school is 10. So it does fluctuate with holidays, seasons.
That makes sense. So, would you be able to share any feedback or testimonials that you've heard from people who are using it frequently to really show just how impactful SignUp has been in their lives?
My favorite testimonials that we get are when kids understand their favorite movie for the first time, because pictures show a lot, but not everything. So when little kids finally understand the dialogue and all the emotion behind the characters, that is really cool. Also, deaf kids in hearing families being able to all watch a movie together. Everyone can sit back. A parent doesn't have to interpret at the same time. You don't have to have separate screens. Everyone's watching the same movie, and it's accessible to both hearing and deaf family members. I love hearing those stories. Families that are learning sign language for a deaf family member, using it as a learning tool is amazing. A lot of our users are actually on the spectrum, so those kids will often learn sign language with their parents as well, which is great. The overwhelming theme is that people have been asking for this for so long from these companies, and they haven't done anything with it. So people are just glad something has been invented like this.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I think those testimonials do really show that there's an overwhelming need. And the users, just the sheer amount of users per week, shows that there's an overwhelming need for this type of product.
Yes, definitely.
And the fact that it's freely available too is so important, because especially in the assistive technology world, when they exist, they're so expensive. And that's another barrier. But like the fact that it's a free Chrome extension that anybody can use really helps to make it even that much more accessible.
I think it's ridiculous having to pay for access. Hearing people would be so mad if they had to pay for audio, and it's the same thing.
Exactly. That's a great point that I think a lot of people aren't considering. If I had to pay to hear the audio of a movie, people would be fuming.
Yeah, they would.
I appreciate anytime anything is open access like that, because the reach is so much greater for so many different people. So that leads into, you had talked about how you're expanding into different regions. What are some other plans that you have for expansion and continued development? I know you're still currently in school, right? Right now?
I took a gap year to run this full time for a year and hire a management team and raise my seed round. But that is coming to a close. I start school in September, but I'm handing it off to a great team of people, and I know they'll keep on growing it. So our next focus is launching to other streaming platforms, PBS Kids, Peacock, Hulu. I'd say that's our main focus with expanding. Always more deaf interpreters. We always need more of those, especially as we scale to other streaming platforms. I mean, with startups, you kind of do everything yourself at the beginning, but now I'm hiring a legal team, financial team, social media. So yeah, just the number of people has expanded a lot.
Those are very big goals. That's a lot, especially because you started this in high school, right? So like the amount of growth, that's really amazing. And I'll make sure to link, I think it's on your website, right? The link to the interpreters.
Yeah, that is on the website. Yeah.
I'll link that in the show notes too, as well as in the transcript. So anybody who's looking at the transcript can just hop to the bottom and those notes will be in there as well. So my last question for you is, what do you think that other media companies or platforms could learn about accessibility and just access in general from SignUp?
Well, the goal is that they just employ our company and just have sign language as another language option. I love the form of the Google Chrome extension. I love that you can resize it and it's an overlay. But it is an extra step that people don't need to be taking. It would be amazing if it would be with the 20 plus other languages that they offer closed captions for, especially Disney. I think just integrating it into their platform as a language option like everything else is what they should be doing. And I hope they do it with us, but any way they do it would be great.
That's good advice. I hope that they do, because that is something that could be so easily integrated. They could take what exists in SignUp, because it's so easy to pull a language now in subtitles. It's so easy to pull up subtitles and pull a different language. So why not just add that in as an option? That would make a lot of sense. And I don't know why more people don't.
Especially with all of the languages that have such small user populations, like Disney offers Slovakian subtitles that have, tens of thousands of users, and not American Sign Language, which has hundreds of thousands of users. Just from the numbers side for them, it doesn't really make sense.
That's a good point. It's a very large population of people, so I don't know why there isn't more support for that community. And then even all the regional versions of sign language as well. I'm sure there are thousands of people speaking each different dialect, so I'm not sure why they don't, but I want to thank you so much, Mariella, for joining us today and for telling us all about SignUp. I'm going to make sure for all our listeners and everyone who is reading along with the transcript, there will be links in both the show notes and in our transcript to the Chrome extension, the Chrome Web Store, so you can download it directly to the website, the link to apply to be an interpreter if you are interested in that, and the link to the video for how to download and activate the extension as well. So that way you can follow along and activate it on your browser. But thank you so much for sharing all the amazing work that you've done. And I'm just really impressed with how you started this in high school and how big it's grown. That's just really incredible.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I've loved talking to you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Assembling Inclusion podcast. I hope the information in this episode taught you something new, gave you a new idea, or showcased a new perspective. If you liked the episode, feel free to leave us a review or comment. If you have a recommendation for an individual or an organization who would make a great guest, you can message us on Twitter or Instagram, or send us an email at assemblinginclusion@gmail.com. See you next time.